Hey everyone, Mitch coming in for the Commander Core Studio. Welcome to the show. So, on today's episode, I'm going to be answering the question, and it's a very simple one. Will Wizards mess this up? Now, a couple of questions here. Number one, what is that question? And number two, well, you might be thinking, Mitch, well, you usually, typically, most of the time, are pretty harsh on Wizards when they do things that might not be best for the community, so we're going to assume that you would think that they will mess whatever you're thinking of up, right? Well, let's take a step back real quick and talk about what the question is first, and then we'll talk about my opinion on it. In my opinion, fluctuates a little bit back and forth on this one. Here we go. Online Commander sounds like a miserable way to play Magic the Gathering now. Wizards of the Coast is testing out a new MTG video game that brings Commander to the digital world, but do we really want to play EDH online? Now, the other week, I think it was just the end of last week actually, Chris Cox, the CEO of Hasbro, I don't know if intentionally or unintentionally kind of let it slip that, yeah, we're working on a digital version of Commander that's separate from MTGO Online. I just said MTGO Online instead of MTG Online, whatever. And also Arena as well, which was a surprise. And actually in the comments below, I appreciate everyone who commented and, helped me kind of understand why that might not be. I am not actually a coder myself. I can spaghetti code some front end stuff, but you have no idea about back end stuff. Basically, apparently Arena, easier just to tear down the whole thing and redo it for Commander apparently because it's a 4-player game versus a 2. Basically is kind of how they said it, though obviously they wouldn't tear it down because that can handle everything outside of Commander. So basically, here's the thing. There are going to be a couple of different, obviously, opinions. I mean, from one side to the other. Should Commander ever go online, really? Should it not go online? What are the challenges that it faces, and can it work out? And from this perspective, from this article on Wargamer from Matt Basil? Not sure, my apologies. Let's see Matt's perspective. Hasbro CEO Chris Cox dropped an unexpected bombshell earlier in the week when he revealed that Magic the Gathering was testing a new game that would allow players to access the popular multiplayer format Commander. The implication is that this is something Wizards would release separately to the existing MTG Arena video game and mobile app. Obviously, like everyone else, my first thought was, will we seriously be expected to start building our digital card collections from scratch again? But then I began thinking about what these virtual games of MTG Commander might look like, and the only answer I can come up with is god-awful. Okay, all right. So, obviously, Matt's thought on this is that this is, well, bad for a couple of reasons, and obviously this was pointed out, essentially that it would be a separate, game completely than Arena and MTGO, and essentially because of that, that means its economy is entirely separate, which kind of has to happen from Arena, and we'll talk about that here in a little bit, but essentially, you kind of got to start building that collection again, which is not really all that fair when Wizards is like, okay, you know what, if you want to play this way, you use these cards, which are physical. If you want to play this way on Arena, you use these cards, which are on Arena. Then you've got these cards on MTGO. If you already have those, sorry, doesn't really matter all that much. And then if you have this new one for Commander Digital, you need to rebuy everything, essentially. We'll talk about the actual economy and the implications on that when it comes to kind of how they need to approach it. But yeah, obviously there's some bad things in that way. And again, not just even if you're taking out, let's say you had every single card in Commander on access digitally and you just had all of them essentially, would it still be a good thing? Let's keep going. So just think about the logistics here for a second. In a 2-player game on Arena, how often do you encounter opponents roping, letting the clock run down, often seemingly just as they're about to lose? How often have you yourself left the room to grab a cup of coffee, forgetting that you've just entered a match or tabbed out to do something else while you wait for your opponent, only to come back and find they're now waiting on you? That's in a 2-player match where each action can only be responded to by one other player. In Commander, not only are there more players' turns to worry about, priority is passed so often, and there are so many opportunities for opponents to respond that it's orders of magnitude slower. Sometimes it feels like the game only really works because you can shorthand it, hand wave a lot of steps, and go back in time if the plays skip past someone's action. A cold, hard, logical machine can't be so forgiving. I don't disagree with that. That obviously that the jump from 2 to 4 players is huge, absolutely huge, when it comes to the amount of time that things take. And again, that example of Arena with the rope, going down essentially, That is a major thing that would have to be addressed, and I've got a little slide presentation to talk about here in a second on things and how they could actually approach it and how for it to potentially be successful. Though again, obviously, we shall see if this ends up being, well, number one, an actual thing, number two, actually working, and number three, players actually going to play it. Obviously, I know that it's currently possible to play Commander with strangers on Magic Online, technically, but I don't know anyone brave or masochistic enough to actually do it. Same. I have played Commander for quite a while now at this point, and I don't know anyone that actually plays Commander on Magic Online. I do not know anyone who does it. If you do, let me in the comments below what your experience is of it. And again, if it's just like playing with strangers, or if you're playing with people that you know, and you kind of, have that Discord chat off to the side, and you all like are actually going about it like a in-person game of Commander, essentially. Even playing in a loosey-goosey manner, in-person Commander matches can still be tiring. I don't disagree. There definitely can be ones that can be very long. If all you did on your turns was play one spell and pass, it can sometimes be hard to stay engaged while sitting through a turn where one player combos off, another dithers for 5 minutes about how to attack, speaking as a supreme ditherer myself. I've been known to do that as well. So obviously in an actual match of Commander, I mean, I've played in a game that was like 3 hours. Typically, Commander games, I'd say roughly on estimate, are like, an hour to 2-ish, probably, depending on the play group you play with. But yeah, I'd say you're looking at least around an hour, usually for a game of Commander. And obviously, again, if we have like the rope problem, with MTG Arena for this new Commander client, it could be even longer than that. And that's probably one of the main factors that actually comes about. Moving on, the main thing that makes Commander fun despite the shortcomings of squeezing a 2-player game into a 4-player MTG format is the social aspect, 100%. The ability to play politics, chat with friends or strangers, make shared references, and joke about what's happening at the table is a fundamental piece of the experience and not something that can be or should be easily discarded. 100%. I mean, when it comes to like wanting to play the most competitive format out there, it's not really Commander, like, at all. Like, you're not typically the most competitive people, aren't you? Just flocking to Commander to play it in that way. Now, obviously, there is CDH, but, like, the highest pinnacle of Magic play is not Commander when it comes to competitive nature. So, when it comes to Commander, the things that make it special, again, are that it is a social format. You do politic, you do make deals, you do say, like, hey, like, oh, I'm not a big threat right now, like, that other player's over the big threat, like, we need to take care of them first. You kind of need that chat aspect of it, which obviously can be kind of problematic online, potentially. And we'll talk about that as well and some potential solutions to it. So, yeah, again, you can't just be like, yeah, people will play this, I guess it's the same reason, one of the reasons that not a lot of people play Magic Online, too. Moving on. My best and worst Commander games were never defined by what actually happened on the table. I've been perfectly content sitting on 2 lanes for entire matches, and they had everything to do with the people I was playing with and how they behaved. I mean, I don't know if I'd say that I've been perfectly content on sitting on 2 lanes for entire matches. My playgroup kind of has, like, a sometimes rule that's like, oh, you're sitting on 2 lands for like 5 turns. Yeah, if you don't get a land with your next draw, just like scry till you hit a land. Okay, start playing Magic, please. Thank you. Yeah, it is basically, yeah, I mean, again, like, it is the social things of Commander that you really remember, right? The people that you're playing with, the experiences that you have, not necessarily just like, oh, I won. Like, okay, cool, like, you won, good for you. But, like, I have, some of my favorite moments are games I lost, so it doesn't really matter all that much if you win or lose for the most part in casual Commander. If this new Magic the Gathering video game works like MTG Arena, whose social features are extraordinarily lacking, yeah, I've heard they are, even compared to other digital trading card games, then I don't see how it could be anything but a failure. A text function would be needed at the very least. I don't disagree with that, but obviously there's problems that can be had with that, and that's addressed here. Really, though, you're going to want to voice chat. This comes with obvious baggage. Yes, perhaps a more cerebral game like Magic is less prone to being swarmed by 11-year-olds hurling Gen Alpha slurs you'll have to look up, but policing this is going to be a headache that I can't see Wizards jumping for joy about. I don't disagree. Yeah, I mean, I could definitely see that being problematic, obviously, with a voice chat functionality. That being said, I do think that there is a potential solution for that we'll talk about here in a bit, and it's not just, well, assume that everyone's going to be a nice person and very understanding. No. Okay, moving on. The only way digital Commander were to work is if the social experience is emphasized above all else. I don't disagree. There need to be a tool or friends who can't meet in person can chat and play games together. I 100% agree to that. Again, like playing with random strangers online, that'd be nice to get a game in. There needs to be certain functions to that and potentially even making friends through those strangers. So again, you probably need some kind of a chat in some way, essentially. But yeah, when it comes to like the core experience of this game, it's most likely going to be players who like want to play with their friends but can't actually meet up for one reason or another. Again, life gets busy for everyone, but you know, like, oh, okay, it's like 11:30 at night and I've got like 2 minutes, and not 2 minutes, I've got, you know, an hour, you know, of my time finally, you know, after putting the kids to bed or whatever. Can I actually just play a game online? Because obviously all the LGSs are closed. None of my friends are able to meet in person right now, obviously. Like, those kind of experiences essentially are what it's going to be filling for. Or, hey, I'm out of town. Like, can I still, like, you know, get my laptop out and play a game of Commander with my friends because I'm out of town? That kind of a thing. Yeah, I do think that they really need, if they're going to make this work, the social aspect has to be emphasized. I 100% agree with that, because that is what makes Commander, that's what makes Commander work. It is what makes Commander work. Are there flaws with Commander? Are there people who want this change or that change with Commander? Absolutely. But the thing that makes it work and why it's the #1 format in Magic, it has been for a while now, is because of that social aspect and making it special. So if you're bringing that to, again, an online experience, you can see why it's not successful with MTGO, so don't fall into those same pitfalls, and also don't just say like, oh yeah, we're just gonna copy paste what we do with Arena and we're gonna do it here. So yeah, cool, you've got emotes and stuff like that for your characters. No one cares about that in Commander, most likely. It's gonna be more like, yeah, can I actually politic with my friend over there, essentially, so that we can team up on that other player over there because they're getting out of control to stop them? You need that aspect, essentially, right? Or you need to be able to share, like, oh, that was a really cool play, you know? Except for just, you know, clicking, you know, a chat box to text where and be like, okay, one of these 3 options. Good job. Yeah, cool. Okay. Tabletop Simulator mods assisted by Discord already do a pretty good job of providing for this audience. Plus, the in-game physics engine that allows you to flail around, drop cards, and knock your deck over does a great job simulating the paper experience, at least for my clumsiness. Presumably, these copyright infringing mods will go the way of the dodo if Wizards releases a Commander game. I don't know entirely if that would happen or not. But I do say, I mean, they do a pretty good job. Yes, I have actually tried out some simulator mods as well. Personally, again, like, you really need to like kind of learn all the quick things with it, or it can be a pretty slow experience, especially for someone who is jumping into it, versus a digital client that, you know, Wizards makes. If it is like Arena, essentially it would be quicker for a lot of reasons and less intimidating for many who it's going to be easier to jump into something like that. So yes, there are people out there who are already doing this, essentially playing Commander digitally, you know, not on MTGO but on tabletop mods. But again, it is going to be potentially more approachable if there is actually a client for Commander out there that Wizards, again, potentially does a good job on, which, again, like years ago, before Arena came out, I was just like, yeah, there's no way this is going to work out, right? Wizards like, yeah, we're going to redo this. And all of a sudden, Arena came out, I was like, whoa, okay, they actually went about it and made it really good. So they surprised me with Arena. So again, like, initially I was like, they're not going to make this work for Commander. It's like, well, they actually made Arena work really well and got really good reviews from a lot of people out there on it. So could they actually make Commander work? I mean, obviously there's still problems with Arena too, like the economy, all that kind of stuff as well, but could they actually make a client that does Commander in a functional way that brings its social aspect in? Yes, it's going to take a lot of work, but yes, they could, I believe. But even if Wizards exercises its legal right to take down the competition, I can't see fans flocking to online Commander. One of the great things about MTG Arena has going for it, which has allowed it to become the main place standard games are played, is the ease of access. It's quick to play games standard on the digital platform and much easier to find them than in real life. Again, and that is different potentially than what you're looking for potentially with a Commander match, because there isn't really that social aspect of games on MTG Arena, really, versus if you are trying to play Commander. Yes, you are kind of looking at that social aspect as well, typically, I would say. Now, again, I think that the focus of this online platform for Commander cannot be, our goal is to, like, make it the #1 place you can play Commander. I don't think that's essentially, I don't know if that's realistic. Like, again, it's a different experience than Standard, whereas, again, like, online Standard now on MTG Arena is the #1 way of playing it, essentially. That being said, it needs to not be like, oh, it's supposed to replace Commander. It should be like in addition to, like, again, like, if you can't meet in person, here is an option, kind of, instead of like, oh yeah, this is your number one way, like, don't leave your house or see your friends again, just play online. Yeah, I don't know if that's gonna actually be, it just depends on what direction Wizards tries to take it and how they try to present it. We shall see. In contrast, online Commander games will be interminably slow, and if there's LGS in your area, it's extremely easy to get your fill of Commander in person. Digital Commander has a lot of hurdles to be clear, and I'm not sure the results are going to be worth it. Okay, so yes, I mean, here's the thing. Obviously, there's a lot of potential downsides to having or trying to do a Commander client. There's a lot of upsides as well, though. There have been a lot of people out there. I mean, I've seen plenty of comments on Reddit, comments in the comments below as well. Just like, hey, I'm like kind of in a more remote area. I'm not in a major city, and I don't have an LGS near me, or I don't have a lot of other players near me. How do I go about finding players? This would be a good way for people that don't have access to an LGS near them, or a good LGS near them, or one that, has Commander on the nights that they are free to play, essentially, too. Like, it is going to be again, saying that, I think it's just like, if you got an LGS in your area, it's extremely, yeah, I agree that that's good for a lot of players out there, but it's not fulfilling the need for every player that wants to play Commander out there. Digital Commander does actually kind of give that option to players, not just that, like, can't meet with their friends, but also ones that, again, maybe don't have that play group, or just getting into Commander, and maybe it's like a less, not threatening approach, but it is one that is pretty easy to try to jump in and try it out to see if you like it, versus, going out, buying a deck, and then going to your store, and then trying to find a game and figure things out. And it can be embarrassing sometimes for a new player if you're completely new to Magic too, and like maybe you don't understand the stack completely. It can be a thing where the platform actually handles things for you. It can be an easier jumping in point, which is kind of what MTG Arena is as well for Standard. So there can be some good things. And again, like usually, I am someone who is pretty critical of Wizards when it comes to, well, most of their decisions that they make that are not good for players. I'm not sure, again, and again, maybe I'm going to give them too much credit on this. I'm not saying that, Commander Online is going to be the greatest thing of all time, but I do think that there is potentially a place for it. There is a benefit for it. Again, if it is gone about in the proper way, and it's not trying to replace in-person Commander play, it is trying to be an addition to. Again, for those players that don't have the option, don't have an LGS near them, don't have other players in their area that, play Commander. Or for players that, again, are busy and can't get to an LGS when they're open, or, are out of town and want to play with their friends still. So giving players that in-addition option, I think, is something that, again, should be the focus. The social aspect needs to come into play. And now let me bring up my slides to show you some main points that I think are necessary for them to succeed with this. Number one, and I think this needs to be a huge piece of their, puzzle to essentially put together when it comes to this client. If you are going to have, again, those you're playing miscellaneous people options, you also need a quick game option, because you are most definitely right, Matt, from your article that, again, Commander can sometimes be a very time-consuming, bogged-down game, and you need options. Like just like there's chess modes, right? And I had to look this up because actually I haven't played chess in a long time, but chess modes like Blitz, Rapid, and Classical, like there's different like time allotment amounts essentially. So not just like the rope in, MTG Arena. You need like, okay, here you go. You get, and yes, I understand the comments below might be like, well, this benefits aggro decks. Sure, okay, well, yeah, all right. But you know what? You need some kind of a quick game option. All right, so every player has 15 minutes in total, not on their turn, but no, 15 minutes for all the actions they take in the game. There's some things that can be shortcut, obviously. There's some things that you can set where it's like, okay, yeah, skip priority on these things, whatever it is. You need quick games, essentially, to actually make this function, or players aren't going to sit around to play a 4-hour game of Commander where you're literally just like, okay, I did my turn. 35 minutes later, it's my next turn. No, you need quick game options where each player is incentivized to make quick decisions, and yeah, or sometimes you're gonna mess up and not make the correct decision, but yeah, that already happens in Commander anyways, even if you take 10 minutes on your turn. So yeah, giving a quick game option, I think, is one of the very important things. Because if you are getting, new players into it, they're not going to be as willing to be like, yeah, I'll just sit around. And players who played it for a long time too. Most players aren't going to be like, yeah, I'll just sit around for 4 hours to play this one game and it goes nowhere. So giving different options, essentially giving a quick game option, and again, making it so it's not just like, okay, yeah, you get 10 seconds per decision. It's like, well, the problem with that is potentially, okay, I tapped my Llanowar Elves. That was a decision I made. All right. Next, I tap this other creature that has this ability. Okay. And you're still taking like 2 minutes per turn. You're taking, not 2 minutes per turn, but you're taking quite a long time. People can respond to those things as well. You need a quick game option. That is one of the major solves that needs to happen. Okay. Moving on. You also need some thought through chat. Yes, again, chat is something that has to happen for this to be successful. It can't be like MTG Arena where it's just like, okay, cool, yeah, click, what emotes or whatever. You click like, okay, cool, like, yeah, good play, good job, whoa, yeah, okay, like that's not gonna cut it in Commander. Where you're like, how do I get player 2 to help me attack this other player? Which emote is that? Help? I don't know if that's going to convey exactly what I need. Yeah, no, you need essentially probably a text chat functionality. And yeah, that could be a nightmare, obviously, depending on how things go. You need a text chat functionality of some sort for just your I'm playing with strangers, essentially, kind of functionality. You also, again, if things go well in a game, need an option to like, okay, add a friend in the other game. Like, okay, cool, yeah, me and that other player got along. I'll add you a friend, then we can play private games. So, yeah, having the option for private games obviously is massive for this. But in private games, you should be allowed to have voice chat. You signed in with a private, you made friends on the platform, you made friends in real life, and you added the platform, you had them there. You should be able to do a private game, and in that private game, there should be voice chat functionality for ease of use. Yes, you could just do Discord on the side, sure, but I think putting it in client would be easier when it comes to, again, players just jumping this format that don't necessarily know how to use Discord or don't even know what Discord is really. So being able to, if you're playing a private game with people that you have added as a friend, yeah, there you go. You have a voice chat. And if you're like, oh, well, that was a nightmare. That person isn't a very nice person. Unfriend after the game. There you go. You solved your problem, so you don't have to play with them again and have a discussion with them with that. So there you go. So yes, again, that social aspect has to be a key piece of functionality in this, or it will not succeed. Next up, no arena economy. Yeah, arena's economy will not work in Commander at all. Slowly slogging through playing, trying to get all these daily rewards and doing all these things to try to get enough wild cards to put a deck together where you are, again, in arena, just buying, decks, 60 card decks essentially, right? It could be you're like, I want 10 plus 100 card decks. This is going to take forever. And from, again, way back when, essentially, right? So you got so many cards, obviously, that you can pick from. You need either a card market, again, more like MTGO, essentially, or you need to have, again, a monthly fee subscription of something, or something like that, or a yearly fee subscription, where you have access to basically everything, or literally just everything. You need a different kind of economy than Arena. Arena's economy will not work for Commander, which is probably another reason why they're doing it on a separate client, essentially. So, for better or worse, that's probably why they're going about that. And also on top of that with the, the 2-player to 4-player, because I heard that is a nightmare, apparently, when it comes to the coding. So there you go. Next up, we've got, if this will go, there we go. Oh, one more. There we go. Physical digital precons. This is something that I do think would be impactful, and I think that Wizards, don't know if they would do this again, one of those things where it's like, if they were being, not entirely greedy, which they probably will be with many of these things, so they probably won't go about this in the right way. But again, I've been proven wrong by them sometimes. Being able to, from, not like previously, but from then on, once that client is available, when they have those physical precons that they are making, if you buy that, it comes with some kind of a card inside of it that's got some kind of a QR code or whatnot, where you also get the cards digitally on that commander, or you unlock that you can play that deck specifically, or whatever it is. You are given digital access to those cards from precons. I am not expecting it like every card moving forward that you buy, you get. No, I'm not expecting that. I would expect, though, that like if you're trying to get new players into this platform and you are trying to get players to buy into it, giving that easy access to, okay, yeah, you bought your pre-con, you can go play in person, but also if you'd like to play online, if you don't have the time to play in person or whatnot, or just like your LGS isn't as consistent with the amount of people that show up, essentially, cool, you can also play digitally too with that same pre-con. So again, giving that digital access, I think that'd be a big way to drive people to the format to start if you give that access on top of the physical to the digital as well. Okay, and then finally, if I can get to it, here we go. Digital only benefits. You also need to make it so that there are benefits. Again, we talked about a lot of the downsides to actually having Commander on, quote unquote, an arena type client. There's a lot of downsides. Again, we talked about the amount of time it all takes. We talked about, the social aspect not potentially being there. Though, again, there definitely can be a social aspect if you do have, those private game voice chats or, just text chats in general. But yeah, the private game voice chats I think would be huge. But there are also benefits that can happen when it comes to being digital, essentially as well, right? Quick tutoring. That's one of the main things, right? How long does tutoring take you, or the entire play group essentially you're playing with in an average game of Commander? Like, if you're not even just talking about like tutoring like a demonic tutor, but like, okay, I crack my Evolving Wilds. A minute? I mean, like, again, you have to go get the land. You get the exact land that you want. You put it into play. You shuffle your deck back up. Someone else cuts it, right? That all is cut down, to a fraction of the time when you're playing on a digital client that can just do all that for you. Again, cascading effects, tutoring effects, like that, just math in general, right? Combat math in general can just be done with that. Getting counters on things. Again, if you've got like, oh, okay, I double up all my creatures. Cool. It made all the tokens for you. There are things that can go so much quicker, again, on a digital client, obviously, that it can cut down on that time. So again, if you've got those quick game options already, there is a possibility, if you've got a quick game option for this with these digital benefits as well, your games in Commander Online could be quicker than the ones in person, which is something that they should kind of be aiming for in a way. Because, yeah, Commander games can take a long time, and if this client is longer than the actual games of Commander, I don't think players are going to play it. So again, you need kind of that, like, okay, utilize what the benefits of a digital client are. Again, quick tutoring, the math, essentially like that. But also, again, in kind of like a different way, like the reserve list. Like, the reserve list, Wizards is not bound to the reserve list digitally, too. So they can reprint those cards. Again, depending on however the economy works with, this new client. Again, if it is a monthly subscription, it doesn't really matter all that much. But if it is, more of like a card market, yeah, you can reprint reserve list cards on digital. So you can get around the reserve list that you can't get around in standard, or in standard, in physical cards. So again, Gaia's Cradle might not be an affordable card for many people, essentially in physical. But when it comes to the digital experience, you could be like, oh yeah, Gaia's Cradle online is like $3. So all of a sudden, again, you've got yet another reason for players to try out online. So I think at the end of the day, again, the main things are like, yeah, it should not be replacing Commander, but it should be in addition to Commander. And as long as you get the main things down, like, there's a lot of benefits to be had when it comes to actually doing this. And I do think that the maybe main thing with this whole thing, though, is the chat. Like, you need to get that social aspect of the game right, because if you don't get that right, it is not going to work. And Wizards can be like, what? We gave them the quick game ability. We gave them the digital benefits, again, of things going quicker. We gave them this economy that actually works. La, 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 la. If you get all those things right, it's not going to matter if you don't get the social aspect right, because, again, that is why most people play Commander. It is not supposed to be the most competitive format of all time. It's not the end-all, be-all of Magic when it comes to that. It's about the experience. And, again, you could have a really cool play, but if no one's like saying anything about it because you don't have anything, that takes away from the experience. Or again, if someone else has a really cool play, you're like, oh yeah, awesome, sweet. Or again, like if one person's a giant threat, and then you have another person who just destroys your creature instead of their creature, you're like, could we have talked about this ahead of time? Could we have, why'd you do that? Versus again, in a one-on-one, it's like, yeah, I'm going against you. Of course I destroyed your thing. So being able to get that social aspect right is huge, and that is something that they really, really, really need to get right the first time, or this will be a failure to launch. So again, I am obviously very skeptical of a lot of the decisions Wizards makes, and again, when this one initially was announced, it's like, okay, yeah, good luck. I do think, again, because I was proven wrong on Arena. Arena was something I thought was like, yeah, they're going to have that flop. Like, their digital client's, completely terrible. And, like, there's no way that they're going to get this right. And then they got it mostly right. I mean, except for, like, some of the economy pieces still. But they got it mostly right. And, again, with this, if you can bring MTG Arena mixed with Commander, essentially, and actually, knocking out the quick game times, the social aspect of it, and a thought through economy that makes sense on it, I think there is going to be an audience for it. Again, people who either don't have those groups around them, don't have LGSs around them, and are trying to find games, or also just, hey, I moved cities and now I can't play with my old player, but this is a new way to do that. So yeah, I think it is something that could succeed. It's something that they should not rush into. But yeah, overall, let me know your thoughts are on all this in the comments below. Do you think I'm off base? Do you think that Wizards will completely fail this? Do you think they'll succeed at it? Do you think that I brought up some, points essentially about, how they can succeed with it? Is there anything I missed on this? Let me know in the comments below. And yeah, let me know your thoughts on that article. I'll try to make sure I link that article from that in the comments below as well. And with that, this episode is coming to a close, so it's my turn to hear from you. In the comments below, let me know your thoughts are on this episode. And of course, as always, thanks again and have a good one. This show and episodes like this one are possible thanks to viewers like you. If you're looking for an easy way to help support this show, make sure that you like, share, and subscribe. Also, hit that bell notification icon so you don't miss any new episodes. You can also go check out our playmats and other merchandise at thecommandersquarters.com. Another easy way to support this show is with our TCG player affiliate links. So whether you're buying a deck or individual cards, you can use this general link right here or one in the description. And the final way that you can support this show is by supporting us directly by becoming a patron. There are many benefits to being a patron, and I truly couldn't do this without all of their support.